Welcome to the Advanced Cuphead DLC 80% Speedrun tutorial. This tutorial will be covering the lobber spread loadout. As a basis, this tutorial will be going over the bosses and routing under the assumption that you have watched Grandius's Advanced Tutorial Part 1. If you haven't, I will leave a link in the description. Without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. The standard route for DLC 80% is to get out of Elder Kettle's house, go through Forest Follies after talking to Mac the Apple for a total of 8 coins, visit the shop so you can grab the weapons we'll be using, Lobber and Spread, beat the Mausoleum, then arrive at Inkwell Isle 4 to defeat all the bosses. The boss order we'll be taking is Glumstone the Giant, Mortimer Freeze, the Howling Aces, Esther Winchester, the Moonshine Mob, then finally Chef Saltbaker. In the Mausoleum, there is actually a good amount of RNG that goes into deciding what time you're going to get. We'll go over all the RNG you need to know without going too in depth. The Mausoleum is split into 3 waves. When you parry the last ghost of a wave, the next wave starts. The first wave will always have 7 ghosts. 95%-ish of the time, the 7th ghost will spawn the place the first ghost spawned. The second wave can have either 9 or 10 ghosts. It will spawn 9 ghosts if a single ghost spawns, and another single ghost spawns after the Mausoleum waits a little bit. The second wave can spawn 10 ghosts if either A, 2 ghosts spawn at the same time, or B, a single ghost spawns, then after waiting a little bit, 2 ghosts spawn at the same time in the first couple seconds. The final wave has the same logic as the first wave. Start the fight by jumping forward and holding shoot immediately as you're in the air. It might take a little bit of practice to actually land the first lobber, but after a while you'll become natural at it. Switch to spread as soon as your spread shots can fully hit while preparing your lobber cooldown for a caliber swap. This will usually mean you can shoot 3 lobbers and wait a bit holding lobber before switching to spread. The area where Glumstone can take damage is a little bit weird. I recommend trying on the debug/practice mod so you can see the hitboxes of the areas where he can take damage. A quick tip. You can stand on the edge of the platform to dodge being hit by a gnome that is slamming his hammer down. If Glumstone gives you the Cauldron/Spit attack, grab as many parries as you can, but if you are to grab any parries, make sure not to jump too high because you can miss spread bullets above Glumstone. If you don't have a platform to stand on because the first platform descends into the ground, you can do a delayed double jump like this and use EXs to stall and avoid getting hit. It is recommended that you do 2 EXs in this phase to ensure you have enough damage for a fast transition while still saving cards for more spread EXs later. However, if using a 3rd EX helps you grab an extra parry, you can do that as well. If you happen to get the Geese attack, I'm going to be honest, I would just reset. As soon as phase 1 ends and Glumstone becomes invincible, quickly make your way to the left. Your goal is to set up a lobber trap that the left puppet will spawn on. This is kind of situational, but sometimes you get a rare high platform on the far left that you can use to set up a really big lobber trap. Start setting up a lobber trap to the best of your abilities. While setting up the lobber trap, line yourself up with the edge of the floor so that you won't be too close and get hit by the puppet, but not too far that you miss spread damage or EXs. I like to call this the miracle pixel. There are a couple of things that the puppet can do. If the puppet goes very high up, you can do lobber EXs and refresh your lobber cooldown while on the ground with a G swap, or damage boost into it and use spread EXs if you have the HP. What I've personally found to be a solid strat is getting 2 spread EXs off before the puppet on the left can do any action. Before phase 3 begins, make sure that all your weapon cooldowns are on 0 and ready to be shot. After the screen fades out, hold down right while shooting lobber. When you have shot 2 lobbers at the uvula, switch to spread. Phase 3 is very RNG dependent and situational, so it is important that you practice this phase as much as you can. There is, however, a flowchart I have developed that you can follow and will work most of the time. After you switch to spread, use a spread EX on the Uvula, land on the ground, then use an angled EX off as soon as you can depending on where he's going. Then switch to the lobber to refresh your cooldown, flick the lobber as you jump into him, and switch to spread. You'll want to use another directional EX that will push you towards the middle of the screen now. After that, kind of chase him with spread and refresh your lobber cooldown if it looks like you'll be missing a bunch of spread bullets. If this strat looks too difficult for you, you can also try the jump roll strat. After shooting 2 lobbers and switching to spread, double jump off the air, use an EX, then dash. This will leave you stuck in the air while rolling around. Swap your weapons twice to begin shooting again. In this state, you can keep up constant spread DPS. Note that you will not be able to use EXs while in this state, so try to have 1 card remaining if you're trying to go for this strat. Mortimer is a fight where the first phase is extremely important as it is the phase where it's hardest to actually hit him. Our goal is to make quick work of him in the first phase especially. If you can manage that, it's actually pretty smooth sailing from there. You want to get used to this 3 lobber opening where you double jump, shoot 2 lobbers, and flick a 3rd lobber underneath him. Chase him with a little bit of spread until you can't hit him, and flick 2 lobbers into him again. If he stops more to the left of the screen, just freely flick 2 lobbers at him like this. Then set up staggered 1 lobber traps. If he stops either mid-screen or more to the right, do 1 full jump, wait a little bit, then flick 2 lobbers into him. The reason why we want to be patient with our lobber flicks is to make sure we have enough height to actually land the lobbers we flick into him. Additionally, the reason why we do staggered lobber traps is because we don't know if we'll get a whale, which is the good RNG, or cards, which is the bad RNG. Now, let's handle the good RNG first. If you happen to get whale, double jump into him and use a spread EX. It's as simple as that. You might have some difficulty actually getting boosted into him when taking the damage boost, so here's a tip for that. You want to make sure you have not dashed beforehand and you want to damage boost into Mortimer and not the whale. And you want to be holding your jump button all the way while damage boosting. If you get cards, your goal now is to get a lobber EX off as fast as possible. Here's a couple of different scenarios to help you get an idea of how to handle this RNG. It can be very tricky at first, but try learning it. Cards and Whale is a 50-50, so it's very worth learning both RNG. Now, the rest of the fight is, like I said earlier, very straightforward. Double jump into the hitbox like you did with Mortimer's Whale and use a spread EX. There's a brief moment where Mortimer's hitbox and the Yeti's hitbox overlaps, so we're making use of that. Now afterwards, use your last HP to take the damage boost when he's falling on you. Use a spread EX to push you backwards and chase him around if he rolls around. If he gives you swords, you can either double jump and use a lobber EX, or try to stick to his fist as close as possible to avoid them entirely. If he gives you fridge, get really close to him and crouch. Now, just as important as how you deal damage to him is how you transition to the final phase. If he transitions on the left, wait for the first platform, the lowest platform, to appear and double jump onto the second platform. If he transitions on the right, wait for the second platform to appear and do a full single jump onto the first platform. Now in the final phase, you can use as many spread EXs as you want inside them as he has no hurt box. But there is one more important trick to cover, which is telling which side he's going to come from. I like to tell which side he's going to come from by looking at where he swoops in from. For example, here he swooped in from the right, so he'll go to the right. Here he swooped in from the left, so he'll go to the left. There are two main approaches to the Howling Aces. You can either go parryless or take parries. I will go over the parryless method as I do believe it is a bit better. If you want to take parries, just follow everything I tell you in this tutorial, but be sure to use an EX in the first phase to account for the extra card you will have. The most important thing in this fight is plane management. It's even worth missing out on some damage if it means your plane will stay relatively in the middle. This fight is like a domino in the sense that if one thing goes wrong, everything else will go wrong. In the first phase, the dog can either spawn on the left or on the right while giving the cat attack or the bones attack. At the start of the fight, shoot a lobber into him and switch to spread for a couple bursts of damage. Then you want to stand around here on the plane and let it travel towards the middle a little bit. Then, if the dog spawns on the right, shoot lobbers at him from a distance. If he spawns on the left, however, take a damage boost and shoot some spread, or if he gives you the bones attack, you don't need to take the damage boost. Chase him around in his plane for a while until he jumps out again. This time, you can either shoot a couple of lobbers at him from a distance to make the plane stay stable, or just jump off your plane yourself and shoot him with spread and 1 damage boost. Hopefully, he dies in the second cycle. Now, prepare a 3 lobber trap. Make sure all the lobbers actually hit the top puppy. Then switch to spread after the third lobber hits to finish off the first puppy. At this point, you want to have looked at the left puppy. If he's holding up a fist, the puppies will spin clockwise. If he's pointing a finger, the puppies will spin counterclockwise. Now go a little towards the dog that is holding up a fist and shoot a lobber at him. Wait a little bit, then double cap assault on him to let out a lobber on your lobber EX. Then an extra lobber will finish him off. Rinse and repeat this until all the puppies are dead. Now you want to set up a lobber trap wherever convenient and pray to the Studio MDHR gods that the turret spawns where your lobber trap is. If it does, great! Use up to 2 EXs in this phase if everything goes smoothly. If it doesn't, well, at least you tried. When the final bottom lasers are firing, if you're crouched at the edge of the plane, the lasers actually miss. After the lasers go away, dash towards the middle and hold lobber. Do a single jump into a double jump to make one particular lobber bounce really high and one particular lobber bounce really low. The lady dog has invincibility at the start of the phase, so these 2 lobbers will be delayed just enough to actually hit her when she's vulnerable. Now finish her off with all your EXs. For the opening, approach Esther in a straight line until you reach midway-ish on the screen, then tap the up direction 4 times. This will make sure you lose minimal damage while traveling towards her. Now Esther can either pull up an ink gun or pull a cactus towards you. While she does these attacks, however, there will constantly be other stuff on the screen like an eagle that throws dynamite or a weird cow-bird hybrid that will shoot you an occasional parry. The trick to dodging everything here is this spot right in front of her face. I like to use her nostril and eyes as a visual cue, trapping in between them. A lot of things in the first phase is just having macro knowledge of the things surrounding you and making micro adjustments to your position. If you look closely here, you'll notice that Esther's hitbox actually shifts back and forth depending on her sprite. You'll want to shift back and forth yourself so you can deal optimal damage and not take any damage yourself. The general rule of thumb in the first phase is use an EX whenever she switches positions vertically. Grab as many parries as you can, which you will only get 1 usually in the first phase. Now in the second phase, you can camp out in front of her knee here and avoid basically everything that is thrown at you quite easily. There is something important I haven't quite mentioned yet, which is counting EXs. Before the third phase happens, you want to have used 4 EXs total. This includes whatever EX you have used in the first phase. Now here comes the RNG factor. After she crouches down, you can either transition to the third phase immediately, or she can give you an extra second phase cycle. If she gives you an extra second phase cycle, that's a good RNG. Unload whatever EXs you have left while the second cycle lasts. This will usually mean you can get around 3 EXs off, sometimes more, sometimes less. Now from the second cycle of the second phase to before the final phase happens, get 6 EXs off for a total of 10 EXs you have used throughout this entire fight. Tip: when she's at the bottom, you want to be close to the ground while using the EXs so the magnets of EX actually track her and deal damage. If they either fly off or collide into a hitbox before they can fly off, they will do no damage whatsoever. When she is at the top, try staying right in front of her head. Now for the final phase, just grab as many pairs as you can and get a nuke off. If she isn't dead after the nuke, use whatever individual cards you have left. Depending on how much HP you have left, you can take a string of damage boosts in a row without dying. If you have 3 HP, let the first wave of sausages go past you, take a parry if you can, and if she shoots her second wave, delay taking damage as much as possible. After that, you can take 2 damage boosts while the third wave is happening without having to dodge at all, get a nuke off, and finish her off with minimal dodges after the nuke. If you have 4 HP, damage boost them basically almost immediately. Now, if she transitions immediately into the third phase, instead of unloading EXs, just get a nuke off, count the nuke as 6 EXs instead of 5 and add it to your mental counter. For the next part, I have Tails joining me in commentary.
Right off the bat, there's an important decision you must make. You can go for the safe and consistent strat called anti-air skip, or you can go for the 35% chance to succeed even if everything goes perfect beforehand strat that will farm you lots of aura if it lands but give you negative aura if it fails, called Lunar Eclipse. But first I'll be covering anti-air skip before going into Lunar Eclipse. For the opening, shoot 2 lobbers towards the spider, then point downwards to shoot 4 more lobbers and switching to spread. He'll either do nothing and go off screen or call in some bombs. You want him to stay on screen for as long as possible while still achieving a 3 cycle. However, besides doing nothing, there is one bad attack he can do, which is calling in his goons. The reason for this is because the goons will most likely be in the way of your lobber trap in the second phase. The name of the game in the first phase is being as aggressive as possible, whilst getting 1 EX off. You really want that 3 cycle or else it's an immediate 2 to 3 second time loss. Do try to stay above 2 HP however. Additionally, if you know for sure you're going to get a 4 cycle, hold off on using that first phase EX. I recommend playing out this fight as much as possible and watching other runners and how they deal with this phase for all the possible scenarios. Now, as soon as the first phase ends, go to the middle of the screen to set up a massive lobber trap. The ladybug will spawn in on it. Your goal now is to transition her on the left side of the screen, no matter what. Also, I should mention if you have blown up any bombs on the spider, make sure to remember how many you blew up on him. Take a damage boost on the right side as the ladybug is walking into you. Now, if you have used an EX in first phase and blown up no bombs on the spider, damage boost the ladybug as soon as you generate your 4th card, and a spread EX while looking towards the right. If you blow up 1 bomb, damage boost in right before generating the 4th card, and I really do mean right before. And if you blow up 2 bombs, do it just a tiny bit before than when you blow up 1 bomb. Get the other 2 EXs off as you see fit, whether it be lobber or spread. The ladybug will stop taking damage as soon as she stands up. When she does, dash towards the middle, setting up a huge lobber trap. Do not jump while setting up the lobber trap, as the platform will make you jump automatically. After you've been launched into the air, do a double jump and then a double caliber swap. Land on the ground, then double jump up and use a lobber EX while holding spread. If your damage was good enough, this will achieve the anti-air skip. But now, for Lunar Eclipse. Just know that it's about a 6 out of 17 chance, which makes it roughly 35% to succeed. Do the same thing as if you were going to go for anti-air skip, right until the second phase. Now instead of using 2 EXs on the snail, you want to save them both. Land on the ground, double jump up for a lobber and some spread, then dash twice towards the left. Double caliber swap 2 lobber EXs up and down, And if your timing was good, this will achieve the anti-air skip. I will also mention there is not really a visual or audio cue for the EXs, everyone will do it slightly differently. The key here is to make a timing method that you find consistent. Now I will show you two backup strats, one for if you're on 2 HP on the second phase, and one for if you're about to kill her on the right.
Chef Saltbaker is a nightmare of a boss. There are a lot of intricacies that go behind the scenes in the mind of a Cuphead speedrunner when approaching the boss. I will only be covering the surface of this boss, however, none of the explained code shenanigans will be covered in this video. Before the fight even begins, look at the table. If there are limes on the table, he will either start with the dough attack or the sugar attack. If there is sugar on the table, he will either start with the dough attack or the limes attack. Most of the good RNG comes from sugar being on the table and the limes attack start. Keep this in mind. Now, the general rule of the first phase is to use spread on them to the best of your abilities and grab parries if you can. You want to achieve a 3 cycle if you get no strawberries and a 3.5 cycle if you do get strawberries. Whenever he's about to move to the left or to the right, travel to the middle before he does and set a quick lava trap in case he gives you strawberries. If you play the fight enough, however, there will come a point where you can recognize whether you get strawberries or not. But for now, set a quick lava trap in anticipation for strawberries, and if he doesn't, move into him for spread. You want to save up all your EXs for the final cycle of the first phase, which is when he's back on the left side. If your card count is already on 3.5 without any parries or 4.5 with 1 parry, set a lava trap on the right side of him. When he starts attacking, get as many EXs off as possible. Do save 1 EX for the linger hitbox that will appear as he's doing his transition animation, however. Now, you see this hitbox that lingers around even when he's not there. You must, and I mean must, at least fit in a lobber EX on this hitbox, or the trick we're going for, called the Ultimate Jutsu, will not work. Even better if it's a spread EX. Now the rest of the fight is semi-flow charted. Make sure your weapons are in 0 cooldown, then get scooped up by Chef Saltbaker. Hold right as you're in the air, and as soon as you have landed, shoot 6 lobbers to the left, do a side step towards the right as you shoot 2 lobbers to the right, then shoot 2 to the left again. After the opening 10 lobbers, move to the right to kill the bottom right shaker. After it dies, shoot 2 lobbers at the top right shaker, then 1 more lobber and then spread to kill it. Set up a 4 lobber trap on the bottom right, dash to the left, and flick an extra 1 into the bottom right shaker that just respawns. It is very important that you don't flick it diagonally. If you do flick it diagonally, it will delay the kill in the shaker just long enough that you won't get a curse shaker, but I will explain that later. Travel towards the left while shooting diagonal lobbers at it, 4 of them. Make sure you have a 5th lobber primed to Calva stop at the top left. Now, if the phase continues past this, go towards the right again and kill the bottom right shaker again. Now, I will explain the Cursed Shaker. The Cursed Shaker is whatever shaker that deals damage after the phase is dead. Depending on Chef's HP value, it can either be this one, this one, this one, or this one. If you can't kill the Cursed Shaker that spawns in for whatever reason, chances are that you didn't deal enough damage to the linger hitbox in the first phase. Now, depending on which shaker the phase ended on, stand here on top of the second card, here, or on Chef's hand crevice. If you stand on his hand crevice, all you need to do is dash twice towards the left while not holding a directional input to get in the spot you need to get. This position you stand on before going to the third phase will manipulate the saw just right so you can get the most optimal lobber trap every single time. I call this the saw manip. Now for the ultimate lobber trap. If everything has gone perfectly before this, you will have just enough damage to perform the ultimate jutsu. Right as the screen fades back in, dash the top of the screen. An indicator of a good dash position is if you can barely see the dash particles at the top of the screen. After the dash, start holding shoot. Double jump right around here when you can see the chimney tip to land on the ground. As soon as you land on the ground, stop holding shoot. Now here comes the double jump sequence. You have to get maximum height out on both your double jumps you're about to do, while still getting enough time to allow 3 lobbers on each of them. Keep in mind that the first lobber of this double jump sequence will always fizzle out and die. Now the actual double jump sequence goes jump, hold shoot, double jump, stop holding shoot, close to the ground. Do this again, but this time, don't stop holding shoot. Perform 2 double caliber slot EXs, 1 up and 1 down. The timing of the lob EXs can be consistently deduced via the saw's position on the screen. If the saw goes left first, EX on the saw goes past here. If the saw goes right first, EX on the saw goes past here. Thank you for watching to the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. And that's all I have to say. But these guys can say something more.
Like and subscribe.
You should like, comment, subscribe, and like the video if that's still a thing.
Anything else? Oh yeah, I know. There's something really important I forgot to mention. I